in emerging markets in the context of international collaboration. And so on this slide, you can see a short overview of today's agenda. My name is Mate Heiss. I'm Senior Advisor for International Cooperation at SolarPower Europe. I will give you a very short introduction on SolarPower Europe's activities in this area outside of Europe. And then we'll have two presentations by Jean-Jacques Ngono and Guillaume Charon on solar investment opportunities in Senegal and Ivory Coast in particular, and the two input presentations will be followed by a Q&A session where all participants will have the opportunity to ask questions to our expert speakers today by using the widget on your right-hand side. So you can post written questions and we will read them out loud. So this is what it looks like. In case you have any questions, you can use the widget that you can see on this slide. Please note that we will have an interesting event in December in London on O&M and asset management. So if you're interested in this topic, then go on our website and register now or contact us for more information. So the three speakers of today are myself, as explained, Senior Advisor for International Cooperation. I'll tell you a bit more about SolarPower Europe's Emerging Markets Task Force. Guillaume Charon, Transaction Advisor in charge of West Africa and in particular Ivory Coast and Senegal at Nexent, working for the USAID funded Power Africa program with background in gas and power. So very good expert on the topic, on the thematical topic, as well as the region. And our other speaker today is Jean-Jacques Ngono, managing partner at Finer Green, a French consultancy specializing in financial advisory, and also an active member of SolarPower Europe's Emerging Markets Task Force. And it's also Jean-Jacques and Finer Green that led the development of SolarPower Europe's market reports on solar investment opportunities in Senegal and in Ivory Coast. And both of these reports can be downloaded from our website for free, together with other reports on solar investment opportunities in various countries around the world. You'll see a slide with the link on this, and so I would like to invite the participants to go on our website and check out these reports developed by our task force. And so, as said, just a couple of words about SolarPower Europe's Emerging Markets Task Force. These are the task force members. So you can see that we have more than 60 companies actively participating in this task force. The mission of which is to identify and create business opportunities in markets outside of Europe. So primarily, we're talking about non-OECD markets, including Sub-Saharan Africa, but also other regions such as MENA, Latin America, Southeast Asia, etc. South Asia, of course, and so on this slide, you can see an overview of the different activities of our task force. So on the top left side, you can see the reports, which you can download from our website for free, including the Ivory Coast report and the Senegal report. We also develop reports on other types of topics that are not market reports, such as, for example, digitalization and solar in emerging markets, which deals with technologies and innovations like solar-based microgrids, pay-as-you-go for solar systems, blockchain, in particular relevant for emerging markets. We also have a newsletter. We're also actively looking at financing instruments, a very important topic when it comes to solar project development outside of Europe. And so on the bottom right corner, you can see that we are partnering with various international and local organizations to disseminate our results, our recommendations, including national associations, national solar industry associations, such as, for example, IDAMA in Jordan or ASOLMEX in Mexico. And we also have a close cooperation with international organizations such as IRENA, the European Commission, the International Solar Alliance, the Global Solar Council, etc., that we work with closely to promote the global energy transition with a focus on a number of countries. And below this tree, you can see the most active, the leading members of our emerging markets task force, including Abo Wind, Envision, Engie, Eni, which is the task force chair, Finer Green, E.ON, and Exergy. And these are the companies that have been leading the different work streams within the task force. And so this is a geographical overview of our outreach. You can see that this is really global and growing. And so if you are interested in any of these countries or other countries, and if you would like to be involved in our different activities in the Emerging Markets Task Force, SolarPower Europe, then please don't hesitate to send me an email. So thank you for your attention for this short introduction. And so I would like to hand it over now to Jean-Jacques to start his presentation on the general context in Senegal. And Jean-Jacques, I believe you have already coordinated with Guillaume, so you will basically be making this presentation together, and then please feel free to hand it over to Guillaume when you're so far. So Jean-Jacques, over to you. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mate, for this quick introduction. So I think I will pass my own introduction and go directly to the topic of this webinar. Basically, we will talk today about Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire. We will talk about of the both well-structured country in terms of energy sector in West Africa. Basically, we will start by Senegal, Guillaume and I, and then we will switch to Ivory Coast a bit later. Regarding maybe Senegal, basically, let me go back a bit. Sorry, I have some. Maite, do you think we can go back to the first slide?
Yeah, sure. Let me try to go back to the first slide.
Yeah, I think it's here.
Here we go.
Okay, to the first page of Senegal. The next one? Okay, this one. Okay, thank you very much. No, the one just before. This one. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Sorry for this technical issue. Basically, we will talk about Senegal. So we talk about a country of 50 million people that grow for about around 5 to 6% each year, and with a total GDP an average GDP per capita of above $2,000, you know. But basically, what we can say about Senegal, it is one of the most democratic country in French-speaking Africa. Each time we have any maybe electoral maybe events there, everything's gone well. Despite of what we can heard from other African countries. And in Senegal, I think in terms of democracy, it's one of the most advanced in French-speaking area in Africa. But basically, Senegal is a it's a well-structured countries. I mean, they issued a couple of years ago a national plan named Plan Senegal Emergent that is leading all the governmental action in the country in any area, including energy, industry, healthcare, and infrastructure. In term of rating, Senegal is quite well known compared to other African countries. Moody's has rated the country for about a B1. That is quite good because that helped the country to maybe to raise some bonds into the international market between 5 and 6% interest rates for any bond raise. The next slide, please. Okay, and that give the countries give a certain comfort to most of investors because we are in a well-structured democracy. Also, it's one of the least corrupted country in Africa. But basically, as I was saying, in terms of governance, everything it's a great success in Senegal for the last for the last 20 years. I mean, each presidential election goes well, and the last one in 2019 went well as well with Macky Sall, who was re-elected as as the new president, as a president, and basically in terms of doing business, the country is well ranked regarding the other African countries. I think it's one of the first francophone African country in terms of doing business. And basically that is one of the most attractive country in West Africa. Maybe if you can move to the next slide. Regarding the economical situation, as I was saying at the beginning, the country is fast growing and there is growth above 5% each year, and there is plan to do so for the next decade. And the Senegal Emerging Plan, it's aimed to bring the country to the full emergence by 2035 with a strong maybe national development plan for each sector, as I was saying, including energy. Basically, what drives the strongest of this country? It's the stability. I mean, the political stability, but also the economic stability. But basically, you have most of the international institution being there. Local emerging maybe a consumer, more and more industry into the country. And as I was saying, as aim of this Senegal Emerging Plan, the country issued several bonds over the last years, and we can say that all the bond was largely oversubscribed by international market. That gives a lot of confidence to the government in its action plan, and that gives more comfort to the international community to implement new industry into the country above the energy sector. If we can move to the next slide. Maybe I will leave for this part. I will leave Guillaume maybe give a quick word on the energy sector, and I will get back with regarding the recent project into the country.
Okay, thank you, Jean-Jacques. I'm going to try to jump on my presentation.
Yes, normally you have the control now, Guillaume.
Okay.
Okay,
no.
so if it, now it seems to be working.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's speak about the energy landscape in Senegal. Energy landscape in Senegal, which I will say, so about 900 megawatts of installed capacity of thermal running on liquids, and about 143 megawatts of solar project. The cost of electricity, which is pretty high, lower compared to countries around, but high compared to Côte d'Ivoire. We'll speak about it later. 83 francs CFA per kilowatt-hour. And sorry, I jump back. Okay. With the cost of production of the electricity, which is relatively high due to as you know, the cost of generation using petroleum products. And compared to Ivory Coast, a country which was in advance with the development of solar projects, with a pipeline of project which has been developed, so 143 megawatts, and new project in solar project and wind project, which are under development and which should be operational end of this year and next year. So in advance compared to Ivory Coast, which is really at the early stage in a renewable project, if we don't include hydro. But with something new for Senegal and a good momentum, I would say, in terms of cost of production, energy costs in Senegal, massive discoveries of gas fields in 2015, 2016, with a country which is today focusing, trying to replace the liquids by gas, by natural gas, by imported LNG and by domestic natural gas. So you've got here additional capacity which were expected in the master plan updated beginning of last year. So you see a conversion of existing HFO plants to gas and new additional capacities on gas built not far from the existing power plants in Dakar, Cap de Biche and Bel Air, and built in Saint-Louis, where one of the gas projects will be developed, and new capacities built after 2025. I speak about it because it's one of the challenges if you speak about renewable project today in Senegal. The government and the Plan Senegal Emergent is focusing on replacing liquids by gas. So that's a clear priority. But at the same time, which is Jean-Jacques will speak about it later, but at the same time, Senegal was in advance in the development of solar project compared to countries around, and has an excellent solar situation, pretty potential, and has a certain experience with the tenders. Jean-Jacques will speak about it, but with very successful tender scaling solar, which was able to deliver a very competitive cost of production for the solar electricity. So I would say focus is on gas. Government is focusing time, energy, and money convert existing HFO plant to gas, plus to build new capacities and to import some electricity from regional hydro projects. but at the same time, a proven track record on solar, DFI, many DFI which are present in Senegal, which support solar projects, cost of electricity, cost of production of the electricity which was very competitive, and something else which is an opportunity, I think, when you develop gas. Gas is an interesting transition fuel to balance renewable energy. And if on the take-or-pay contract you've got enough flexibility, it can be relatively a good fuel to balance the seasonality of the solar, the wind, or the hydro. So this future may be competition for renewable, maybe also an opportunity to develop more renewables. So to be able to absorb the intermittency. And it's also a possibility if some of the gas project or power project may be delayed, solar projects may be a relatively easy solution to bring electricity as soon as possible on the market. I will leave the floor to Jean-Jacques to give an example of solar project or renewable project in Senegal.
Thank you, Guillaume. Thank you very much, Guillaume. If I go back regarding the projects, what we have to keep in mind is that Senegal is the first Sub-Saharan African country to lead the solar revolution they issued some tender in the early 2010s, and basically since 2013. Many projects has been developed, and basically over until the end of 2018, Senegal has put into operation close to 180 megawatt onto the grid. It is a sole Sub-Saharan African country who did that until then, I think. I mean, when we talk about IPP projects, basically, Senegal was the first to fix a tariff for solar projects. It was about 65 francs CFA by kilowatt hour. That means a bit around 10 cents. I mean, now that led to the implementation of a couple of PV plants, and basically now since the last tender, the Scaling Solar one, the 60 megawatt won by NG and Meridiam as a consortium. The Senegal reached a new low in terms of tariff of about 24 francs CFA by kilowatt hour. That means around less than 4 cents by kilowatt hour. That is quite a new challenge to go below for the country. Regarding that, due to the low capacity of the network, we is currently being increased by some financing by the World Bank and the French Development Agency. The country is planning to issue new tender for PV, but this time they will require from bidders to include some storage capacity in order to stabilize the grid and make the country having more and more solar projects. In addition to the gas projects that should be implemented, we think that the strategy is to have both maybe a conventional energy, but also bringing more and more solar projects onto the grid. That is what I can say regarding the solar project in Senegal. if there is no question regarding Senegal, maybe we can switch now to the Ivory Coast.
Yes, thank you, Jean-Jacques. I would suggest to move forward with Ivory Coast and then collect all the questions at the end of the presentation on Ivory Coast.
Yes, okay. So basically, what we can say about Ivory Coast has always been the leading country in Francophone West Africa. It is it is the richest country, of course, and basically, it's after some political tension of between 2000 and 2010. Now the country has fully recovered from that period and is now leading again the West African region. The last presidential election went well, and the president was re-elected without any issue regarding this country of 24 million people, and that's growing fast. We talk about an average of 8.8 over the last between 2012 and 2016. Actually, it's one of the fast growing country in Africa, including Ethiopia and maybe another other country. It's one of on the tier one fast growing country in Africa. Senegal attracts a lot of investors and is well known regarding from international organizations, including COFAS, Moibrahim Index, again corrections. And if we can move to the next slide, maybe, Maite, please. Okay. Basically, what I was saying is that all the light it's green in Ivory Coast, and what I can add regarding the country macroeconomic situation, since the end of the political maybe dispute of the 2000 and 2010 decades, Côte d'Ivoire issued a lot of implemented a lot of stability for investors, and now the country has managed to raise a couple of international bonds into international market in euro, well oversubscribed, and with an average coupon of 5.5%. That is quite good for the region. The main challenge now for the country regarding this fast growing is to maybe to make this growth benefit to the population. That is what the current government is trying to do, and by trying to implement more and more energy energy in its strategy, and trying to bring more and more renewable energy into the energy mix. Maybe before moving to the energy mix, maybe Guillaume, what I can suggest would be to remind to everybody that Côte d'Ivoire is one of the it's one of the most well-structured country in terms of energy sector in Sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, and there is a clear organization, a strong off-takers, and a particularity for IPP to sign directly with the government. Maybe you will say some word about that when you will talk about the energy mix. But I was thinking it was important to say that it's one of the well-structured countries in terms of energy sector in West Africa.
Okay, so yeah. Thank you, Jean-Jacques. Let's try to jump back on my presentation. I think it's before. So yeah, as mentioned by Jean-Jacques, it's a country which is going pretty well in terms of energy, with a clear regulatory framework, with say a long experience of IPPs, Azito and Cyprel. A country which is a regional hub in terms of electricity production. Sorry. So Ivory Coast is well known in the region to be one of the country to provide electricity to countries around which may have or may have had issues, difficulties in the past. Exporting electricity to Burkina Faso, in the past to Benin, to Ghana, to Mali. And it's a country which is still has a strategy to be a hub, to be a regional hub. And sorry, try to go back on my presentation. Okay, so a country which has a strong development, economic development. Jean-Jacques spoke about it. A growth of the electricity demand which was pretty high up to until 2016-17. A slowdown for the last 2 years, but still a huge ambition to grow, to develop new installed capacities, and to develop new projects. So you've got here the installed capacity in Ivory Coast. So it's a mix. It's a little bit the same that Senegal. It's a mix of thermal and hydro. More hydro, thermal using gas, which allow Ivory Coast to be very competitive in terms of cost of production. With the price of the gas, which is between about $5 per million BTU, you've got a cost of generation which is below 50 francs CFA per kilowatt-hour, so well below what's the situation in Senegal, and which allow Ivory Coast to be pretty competitive and to export electricity to countries around. So existing installed, you've got a pipeline of projects which are under development. Hydro project, first of all, hydro project. Oh, sorry, a new project, Soubré, which was commissioned end of 2017. New hydro project, very competitive project, developed in the same area, Gripo Popoli. Other project, Boutoubré. We speak about projects which will allow the government of Côte d'Ivoire to decrease the cost of production, which is pretty competitive today, not far from 50, but to continue to decrease the cost of production. At the same time, Ivory Coast continue to develop generation from gas, with an extension of one existing plant and a new plant, Azito 4, and Cyprel 5. So pretty efficient CCGT, 277 and 350 megawatts, and which will be online in 21. So main, or we'll say the traditional energy mix, which will continue to be hydro and gas, first of all, but interesting with the development of new renewable projects. So with a few years delay with Senegal, Ivory Coast is developing a pipeline of about 155 megawatt of projects, which will be developed before online before 2021. And also, we'll not speak about biomass, but one biomass project and a pipeline of other biomass projects. If we have a look on the solar project, we've got 6 solar projects. 5 which will be developed before 21, and you've got in the master plan 6 solar projects, about 25 megawatt per unit, which will be developed up to 26, plus a small innovative project, a floating solar power plant, 4 megawatt, and 4 other projects which are mentioned, so about 100 megawatt. It may be post 26. So the cost of the last tender has helped the government to find a good price for the solar project, about 40 francs CFA per kilowattheure, which is lower compared to the first project which were negotiated between 50 and 75 francs CFA. And with an ambition of Côte d'Ivoire to have 42% of renewable in the energy mix, so a renewable hydro, biomass, solar. Today, a limited potential of wind, but there is a study which will be developed to assess the potential next year. So we may have some surprise, but the objective of 42% in 2030 has been confirmed a few weeks ago by the government. It's pretty ambitious, and to deliver this objective, the government will have to develop hydro, continue to develop hydro, but also solar and biomass. In terms of challenge and opportunities for solar in Ivory Coast. So compared to Senegal, a limited experience in tenders and a recent experience in tenders in solar. Even if there is a strong experience in terms of hydro and power plant, Senegal had a very limited experience in solar recently. But a pipeline of projects which are under development. The challenge for develop solar in Ivory Coast is the uncertain demand. I will say for the last 2 years we had a relatively low demand in terms of electricity demand, but after the election, people are pretty optimistic with the rhythm of growth of the electricity demand, which will continue to increase. Solar generation, so we'll start soon. Innovative solar project, so the first floating solar project in West Africa. A new interest for tenders. European Union was the one to organize a tender for the last project. IFC also has been scaling solar concept, has also been mentioned as a potential way to develop solar project in Ivory Coast. 42% of objective of renewable, which is extremely high, very high. Same that for Senegal, it's a country with generation coming from, but significant part of the generation today, about 70% comes from gas, which also offer a certain potential for renewable, gas being relatively flexible to support renewable energy. Interesting, there is a new reorganization of the minister, which has been announced a few weeks ago, with a new objective to increase the access, to increase the energy efficiency of the population, to support investment in renewable, to better assess the potential, including wind, and to improve the regulatory framework and legal framework for renewable projects. I will say so we've got the current pipeline of project, which is under development. We may have, maybe until the election, we may have a slowdown in terms of development of solar project, because the priorities of the government today is more on the access and is more on to develop the new hydro and gas plant. But we may have a second bench of solar project which may be developed after the election. So I will leave the floor to Jean-Jacques to speak about example of project maybe in Ivory Coast.
Thank you, Guillaume, for that. Maybe in terms of opportunity pipeline or in pipeline, Côte d'Ivoire has signed a couple of PV projects by December 2018. Basically, they signed this Canadian solar. Basically, it was firstly 50 megawatt, but in order to reach a certain level of price, they authorized the sponsor to increase the capacity to 66 megawatt. And that was a great success. And as you said, we have this tender was a success, won by Biotherm, the South African IPP, renewable energy IPP developers. They are currently negotiating the PPA, and you will have a couple of maybe state-owned PV plants in construction, and it's kind of grant from an international institution. Above all, I think that in terms of opportunity now, as for Senegal, most of maybe African government are looking for some projects, some PV projects that bring some storage capacity. And we think that even if in Côte d'Ivoire they are mainly focused on hydro and thermal plants, as they need a lot of base load capacity. They are quite open to have more and more PV plants with some storage capacity, and that is for Côte d'Ivoire.
So I believe we're at the end of Jean-Jacques and Guillaume's presentation. Thank you very much both for this very good overview of the solar market in the two countries of Ivory Coast and Senegal. So we would now move on to the Q&A session. And so I would already pose this question into the round. If the participants have any questions, then you can use the widget on your right-hand side to write these questions. So are there any questions? We can't see any questions at this stage. But so in the meantime, I think I can already think of a couple of questions that I would like to ask you, Jean-Jacques and Guillaume. So you mentioned that there is a pipeline of projects in both countries, but the real pipeline is, so we have much more visibility until 2022, 2023, but no real visibility beyond that. So so do we have any information on the pipeline of projects beyond, so post 2022, 2023?
It's difficult to answer that question regarding the situation of the both country. Basically, all is matter of demand, you know, and it's matter. And if we talk about solar projects, it's matter about the quality and the quality of the grid, and basically for now regarding the target, both countries has a strong willingness to increase the energy mix and bringing more renewable energy, including solar projects. But in terms of real projects, you might have a couple of local developer or international developer working on unsolicited projects at their own cost. And as soon as they feel that they are ready, they go to the national utility or national or to the institution in charge of giving some licenses present the project, and trying to maybe to create a new, maybe try to push the national utility to update its I think its national production plan. You know, that is how things works now in the both countries, and very unlike in what you can see maybe in some country in Europe, where you have a visibility in 10 years, maybe a 15 years basis. It's a bit challenges to have a long-term visibility and project by project in both countries in West Africa. I don't know if Guillaume has something to add regarding that.
Yes, no, yeah, same feedback. For Ivory Coast, I think I have the feeling that for the next year before the elections, the priority is first of all to deliver the pipeline of projects, of solar projects. So 155 megawatts of solar project which will be developed, which are under development and which will be online before next year, end of next year. So first of all, the government maybe wants to have to take the time to see this project, to follow this project, implementation of this project. Also, there is the election. So priorities, another priority is on connection, to connect population. They have a target of 1 million ounces to connect to the grid. They did more than 50% of this job, and also to the difficulty when countries, Senegal and Ivory Coast, start to develop a new baseload project, they need to finalize contract with the gas supply, if we speak about gas. So they need, first of all, to assess the electricity demand, then to negotiate the volume of gas they will be able to buy from the gas supplier or LNG suppliers. And then once they've got more visibility, if this gas and this electricity will be absorbed, then they can maybe start to have a look again on other projects, renewable, for example, including solar. So I have the feeling Ivory Coast, the project, maybe we will have to wait for the end of the completion of the project, end of next year. Election, then we may have a new momentum for solar projects. Something interesting to mention, the 40 francs CFA per kilowatts-hour or the 24 francs CFA per kilowatts-hour, which was mentioned by Jean-Jacques, is below the cost of the fuel of the gas in Ivory Coast. Is about the cost of the fuel of the gas. So every time you use gas, it costs around 25-30 francs CFA per kilowatts-hour. If you don't include the capacity, so the power plant which is built, it means that solar today in Senegal, even if they develop very competitive gas, solar will continue to be pretty competitive with the gas. If we forget about the cost of the intermittency. So if we speak about Senegal, the pipeline of the first round has been developed, 143 megawatts. They've got today, they're already working hard on their gas strategy today. I think it will be a little bit the same that Senegal, but for other reasons, that for Ivory Coast, but for other reasons. We may have a few months, maybe 1 year delay before a new round of renewable projects may be developed or decided by the government. But the objective in the solar is competitive, extremely competitive in Senegal, pretty competitive in Ivory Coast. Can allow the government to decrease the cost of production compared to some other fuel. They have very high objective of renewable energy, and they start to have a good experience in solar in Senegal, a new experience in Ivory Coast, DFI, which are supporting renewable, including solar. Tender process, which are pretty efficient. So I think the momentum will come back soon.
Thank you very much, Jean-Jacques and Guillaume. So we have a question here from the participants. Let me just read it out because the widget is a bit tricky. So it comes from an investor. We have a portfolio of investors that can be interested in these markets. They say, do you have solid projects ready to present? Are your projects government projects or private projects? I don't know if the question is clear. Hello?
Yes, if I understand well the question, there is an investor who is looking for a ready-to-invest project in one of the both countries. Hello, Mate?
Yes, that's correct. The participant just confirmed
Okay.
that that's correct.
For now, on my understanding is that most of regarding the PV project, most of the projects has already found financing, maybe in other area about solar, I think as we talk only solar now, I'm not sure that in a short-term basis, there is a pipeline of projects ready to invest. The only things maybe that could happen in the next years regarding the projects in operation. I mean, especially in Senegal, maybe some might be a kind of exit from some initial investor, and I think it is one of the where someone can invest in the ongoing project. But regarding the pipeline of projects that need to come onto the grid. As we said, there are few projects in development due to what we said. And in Senegal, you will have soon this PV tender from Sedelec with some storage capacity. And in Côte d'Ivoire, I'm not sure I can say that, but we are currently discussing for potential scaling solar into the country. But it's very early stage negotiation, and I don't want to include that into the presentation. That is the point.
And how about the non-solicited projects that you mentioned earlier, or Guillaume? Was it Guillaume who mentioned it?
Yes, it was me, but I don't know all the unsolicited project, and for now, I don't see any maybe serious project into the into the both market coming to the grid, as both country has just issued some. For Côte d'Ivoire, we talk about 180, and for Senegal, we are almost above 200 megawatts, in terms of PV. That is quite new for them, and as I was saying for Senegal, they are going to tender now. They see that they can reach very competitive price. The last one for scaling solar will reach about 24 francs CFA, less than 4 cents. In Côte d'Ivoire, it was the winner bid below 40 francs CFA, that is less than 6 cents. And on the discussion for the scaling solar, in Côte d'Ivoire expect to reach the same level as in Senegal, around 4 cents. That is the current situation.
Thanks, Jean-Jacques. Guillaume, do you have anything to add here?
In Ivory Coast, up to the last project mentioned by Jean-Jacques, the biotherm one, which was a tender, all the projects were direct negotiation with the government, and I think all the pipeline of projects I had in mind for the last 2 years today are under development or should be developed before 20. So I don't think there are available projects in Ivory Coast. Maybe there are, but I don't think so. Something which may be interesting, a new topic. It was a little bit mentioned by Jean-Jacques. Storage will be part of the future project in Senegal and in Ivory Coast, and there is a strong interest from the Senelec and Energy to work on solar plus storage project. So it's something which may be a good area of development in the future. Floating solar project is pretty new, so there is a pilot developed or financed by AFD Proparco, I don't remember, in Ivory Coast. But I will say there is also something else which is maybe beyond the radar, which are hybrid projects for mining companies using solar plus existing power plants, which could be maybe an interesting topic for developers.
Okay, thank you, Guillaume, and also thank you very much, Jean-Jacques. So I believe we're at the end of our time. So unless there are any other questions immediately, we can we can arrive at the end of today's webinar. So I would like to thank you again, Jean-Jacques and Guillaume, for this for your presentations and for the slides and also for the discussion. So let me just remind the participants once again that you can download our market reports from our website. You can see on the slide the link under which you can download the reports for free. Please feel free to reach out either to Jean-Jacques or to Guillaume if you have any additional questions, or to me if you would like to get involved in SolarPower Europe's Emerging Markets Task Force. So thank you to our expert speakers once again. Thank you to the audience, and keep in touch.
Thank you very much all, and thank you, Mate, for that.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, and good luck with your project.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.